Well, welcome back. We are still working on the classic engine rebuild, and I just have been waiting for parts and yes, getting things taken apart. I finally reached the point where I can separate the two halves of the block. I had to fight hard to get this flywheel pulley off, and I finally got it off, and stator. But everything is cleaned up. I haven't touched the clutch at all. I'm debating whether to do that. I probably will. I do want to go through both carburetors, get those cleaned. But the main thing right now is we want to get the halves separated here, and we're going to pull that crank out of there. So I'll give you a shot of that when we get to it. Alright, we're going to take it apart. I've got all the bolts broke free, because my little 20 volt unit isn't going to do it. So anyway, get all these taken out of here. I don't know how hard it's going to be to separate these halves, because this is the first time this has been ever taken apart, and it's 1996, so it's going to be a challenge. Here's where I didn't break loose. Guess I didn't break it. Got that. Got to remember these are different lengths here. Get that one broke loose here, and we'll proceed. At least a couple taps, and use this hammer rubber on one end. I don't know what this is, hard plastic or plastic of some sort, but yeah, you definitely don't want to run a screwdriver between them, because you don't want to bugger up the leaf surfaces there. So you get to see this. I do. So there's that. Excuse me. You can see this was the side that didn't seize, this side that did. Made a lot of mess. You can see this here is pretty well heated up. I think it'll be fine. I don't see any major issues there. But that was the one that got hot. Can you tell? It's hard to see it down in there, but they're a different color. Yeah, this must have got red hot. That's all I can figure. Boy. So let me pull this crank out, and we'll see what bearings, if any of them. I don't think the bearings are really bad. I think the biggest area is right there on that rod bearing. And then of course it caused the piston to seize up in the cylinder also. So, all right, let me set you back up here and we'll pull this crank out. Seals in both ends, those, I've got a gasket kit for everything. I've got new seals and all that. But anyway, the other one, oh, look at the mess we got there. And my guess is that, yes, destroyed the bearing on the end. Still turns. These or the carnage, the remains of that bearing. So, if the bearing didn't spin, well, it won't spin because it's locked into place, but yeah, at least these halves are salvageable, and that's a good thing. But I fought with that flywheel, and all I had was a harmonic balancer puller, and the little bolts that screwed into the end of that flywheel they're 6mm bolts, and they're real skinny little things. So I tried to get the harmonic balancer as close to that surface of that clutch as I could, because it tends to want to bend them. I had class 10 black bolts I found, and metric, and put them in there. I got that as close, and I got that as tight as I could on there, and then I actually had to put some heat on the center, and that with my impact gun, and popped it. But it took a while. It's cleanup time. Get that old gasket off of there and get all that crud off, and take a closer look at that, which this we could do right. Bearing's free, and this bearing's free, and it doesn't even feel rough, but it must have got hot. That bearing is fine. They aren't even, yeah, that one's got a little bit of roughness to it. But again, it's 96. I don't know, it's probably got, let me just check here how many miles I've got on this thing. On it. 6442. So, it's never been tore down that I know of, at least as long as I have had it. And yeah, just because that one oil line broke, it wasn't getting lubrication. And I use AMSOIL, and I don't know, I think it's the greatest thing out there. I've had a lot of good success with it, but 2 cycles have got to have oil in the bottom of this crankcase in order to survive. So, anyway, well, there you have it. Both of them are clean and very little damage done. You kind of see where something rolled around there, and this is the bottom half here, and you can see where something has kind of gouged that a little bit. But yeah, there was a bearing. One of the balls was missing out of that bearing, and but it was on the outside edge. And so let me just take a look here. Falling out. Thankfully, it would have went out, and who knows where it went. But anyway, this little gouge here is more than likely from the some of the debris from the bearing, maybe, but I'm guessing more from the crank, or the rod, because the bottom of the rod has got aluminum on it, and that's where it drug. So, but I don't see any damage to the bearing surfaces here. So you can see she's nice and clean. Well, I tell you, that's what's nice with a parts washer. You can really clean stuff up. So when I get this engine all done, it'll look like new. Well, kind of. Anyway, I'm going to get back to reassembling here. I want to get the old engines before, and I was over to a Polaris dealer and got to know the guy that owned it pretty well. This is what he recommended for your halves of your your case halves. You put this on it, it's Loctite 518 sealant, and it's just, he said, just put a thin layer down on just on one side. And he said, put that on there. And he said, make sure you get it, evenly distributed. And then when you put it together, that's all you need. It's all it needs to seal, because these are such finely finished surfaces that they just need just a smidgen of a sealant to keep them tight. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be using as I sit the crank in here. So and here's the two cranks. You can tell this is the old one. Why? Because this rod is a different color. That is the new crank, and supposedly it's never been run. So we'll see. I hope not. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's all rebuilt anyway. But nice and loose rods are good. Got my actually it's the top, because there's locating pins on these bearings that have to go in these little divots, and so I need to get those put into place before I can slap the actually the bottom onto the top, and we will seal this all up with that gasket cement eliminator. And I'll probably put some oil and stuff down here, just a thin coat of it, and I got to put some I want to put a little bit of sealant down in this. This is where your the seals fit. I've got these two seals right here. They fit down in. And I was just watching a video the other day, and the guy had an interesting thought, because see, these are held together. There's a spring in there. See, that spring goes all the way around the center of that to hold that tight. He said he puts his in this way. Puts them in what most people call backwards. And he says that way, if this seal lets go or that spring breaks, it don't go in the engine, it goes out. So it would eliminate any kind of mass destruction on the inside of the engine. And I thought, that's a pretty interesting, good idea. So I think that's the way we're going to do it. Yep, I want to get some sealant down around that. Get those sealed up so that they'll not leak. That's the key. These are essential to create the back pressure you need down in the bottom end of the and this is the top end, but the bottom end of the engine to make it run. With a 2-cycle, you've got to have that. So, all right, get busy here. Well, it's together. The halves are anyway. You can see the stuff's kind of oozing out a bit, and I put the seals in that way. The book tells you to do it the other way, but I think it was Streeter's Garage rebuilt one of these recently, and that's what he said that he does. And that way, as I mentioned earlier, that spring that's back in there, if it comes off or breaks or whatever, it comes this side of the engine and not inside of it. So it makes sense. And I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're both, it seals either way. So anyway, that's the way we're going to do it. So now I get to get the turn this real easy so I don't bang stuff up here. But the I get the keyway off of the other crank, put in there for my flywheel. And before I do that, I've got to mount my stator. I get that put in. Everything I'm putting in with it's called threadlock blue. It's not the red, it's the blue. And that way these things tend to vibrate. So put a little bit of Loctite on it will keep it hopefully from doing that. I also looked at the manual, said to put oil down in there, so I tipped it on its side, and these two drain plugs, I just took them out and I dropped some AMSOIL injector oil down in there, so everything is lubed up nice now. And I might even put a little bit more on those rods or bases. But anyway, we're going to get it, because when this thing starts up, yeah, that's the big thing. I've got to be able to get the oil through the pump. But they always recommend on a fresh rebuild to run mixed gas. And that way you eliminate any possibility of it's shooting straight gas in there and you end up with the same problem you had. So I'll probably do that. I'll have to drain my tank and pump it out and put in some mix, and not to run much, maybe a gallon or two, and it'll just run a little bit rich once the pump starts working, but it's better than having it blow up. So anyway, it's the bottoms together. You got the flywheel on, got it torqued. The oil pump is in place with the shim that was with it. Of course, I got the stator on and everything. But I'm just going to take a break and come back tomorrow to put the top end on. And yeah, then we've got the starter that'll have to be put on, water pump. Like I said, but I definitely want to clean the carbs. You got to get those done. So this is the carnage. And when I was taking the other piston off, I broke the skirt of it off. But you can kind of see there, look at how that ring is, yeah, that melded right into it. I mean, it scuffed the cylinder up pretty good. I tried muriatic acid, bought some of that, and tried to clean up the walls of that cylinder, but yeah, they were gouged pretty good, their cylinder, and yeah, it's right over here. So we will be getting that out and getting her prepped tomorrow, along with my pistons. I've got to get those on. I bought these SPI pistons. I'll get to those tomorrow to show you what they are. So, alrighty. Well, thanks for watching. We'll bring you back tomorrow.